Today we're talking about schedules. If you work a full-time job and your dream is to make money wholesaling and eventually quit that job and become a full-time real estate entrepreneur, you have to develop a schedule that allows you to get the most done every day. But here's the thing, I'm not going to give you a bunch of motivation and fluff on how you have to go harder and give it your all, and I'm not going to give you a bunch of scheduling techniques or hacks like time blocking or anything else you probably heard, because that's not what you need. What you need is to understand exactly where and how to find hidden time that you actually do have available each week, and then the exact tactics and strategy on how to use that recovered time in the most efficient way possible to build your wholesaling business and change your financial trajectory. So this is going to be the exact same schedule and framework that I use, which helped me land my first wholesale deal and eventually quit my job and do this full time. And if you copy this exact schedule, I guarantee you're going to get way more done and scale your wholesaling business a lot faster. Welcome to the Wholesaling Freedom Channel, where I teach you exactly how I quit my 9-to-5 job and built a successful wholesaling business and how you can do it too. If you're new here, my name is Ralph and I quit the rat race to become a full-time real estate entrepreneur, and my goal on this channel is to help you do the same thing. Alright, so the first thing I want to do here is break down your week, because in order to spend time working on your business, we have to be able to find the time that you may already have and are not utilizing properly. The biggest excuse that I hear people make is, I want to work on my wholesaling business, but I work a full-time job, and so I just don't have the time. Well, let's take a look at how much time you probably have, but you're literally letting it go to waste. Alright, so let's break this down. There are 168 hours in a week. Now, assume you work a typical job, you're probably at your job for about 8 hours a day. So 8 hours a day times 5 days a week is 40 hours. So you're left with 128 hours a week. Now, let's assume you get a full night's sleep every night, which is about 8 hours a night. Most people on average are sleeping 6 to 7 hours a night, but for this example, we'll assume you're sleeping 8 hours every night. Now, 8 hours a night times 7 days a week is 56 hours a week for sleep. That leaves you now with 72 hours a week. 128 hours minus 56 is 72. All right, next, let's say you're commuting to work. 2 hours a day, so about 1 hour each way. Now again, most people work remote or have some kind of hybrid schedule, so this may be less for some people. And if you're spending more than an hour each way to commute to work, you should probably really consider moving closer to your job or finding a job closer to home, because these are precious hours you'll just never get back sitting stuck in traffic. But let's assume 2 hours a day times 5 days a week, which is a total of 10 hours. Now that leaves you with 62 hours a week. Now lastly, let's assume you spend about 3 hours a day on some other necessary things like hygiene, showers and self-care, and meals, both preparing and eating food. 3 hours a day on this stuff is a lot. And if you're spending more time than this, then again, you should look at some time-saving options like meal prepping, where you cook all your meals for the week on Sunday, or maybe some kind of meal prep delivery service, which can also save you a ton of time. But let's say you're spending 3 hours a day on meals and hygiene. 3 hours a day times 7 days a week is 21 hours. And so that leaves you with the remaining 41 hours a week free to work on wholesaling. Now, I understand people have kids and maybe some other responsibilities outside of work and the stuff that I mentioned here, but for most people, you have about 41 hours a week that you're either mismanaging and or not properly taking advantage of each week. Now, this hidden time is a game changer, but before you can take advantage of this time, you have to first eliminate waste. The reason why it may feel like you have no time is because whatever time you have is being wasted or not used properly, and that stops today. Alright, here are some of the things that end up monopolizing the free time you have and psychologically makes you feel like you don't have any time left. Number 1. Binge watching Netflix or other streaming services. You could spend 4 to 5 hours a night easily just watching your favorite show or series, and it feels like just an hour. Number 2, scrolling endlessly on social media. This is what we call doom scrolling. Between Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and Twitter and even YouTube, there's endless amounts of content to consume, and most people end up scrolling in bed, so this cuts out from the time that you could be sleeping. Number 3, playing video games and other forms of entertainment. Number 4, attending every happy hour or brunch or all kinds of other social events. I mean, some people make this a weekly ritual. Now, these activities might be relaxing or somewhat important for self-care and social connection, but the reality is they don't put any money in your pocket. And it's all time wasted that could be spent on bringing you closer to hitting your financial goals and achieving financial freedom. So it's time to practice delayed gratification. Sacrifice a little now to enjoy the life you want later. Alright, so before I actually retired from the rat race, I worked a full-time job for 3 years while learning how to wholesale and then eventually building my wholesale business. For 3 years, I made calculated sacrifices that were solely focused on getting me to a goal of becoming my own boss. Alright, so let's get into how I structured my day and managed my time while working a 9 to 5. I split my available free time up into 4 different categories. 1. Before work. Monday through Friday, I would wake up at 5 a.m. and I would follow The Miracle Morning Routine by Hal Elrod. It's a great book, and if you haven't read it yet, I strongly suggest you pick up a copy. This morning routine included reading the Bible, praying, some meditation, some journaling, and some movement like stretching or light exercise. That would take me altogether around 30 minutes. Then at 5:30, I'd begin working on administrative tasks. These are tasks that needed to be done, but since at 5:30 in the morning, I couldn't spend that time calling realtors or calling sellers, I spent it working on the things that would allow me to use all of my available time during normal business hours to be able to seamlessly talk to sellers and realtors who have deals. This would include things like setting up my outreach to real estate agents. I would craft regular outreach emails to realtors who I connected with and schedule those emails to be sent to them during regular business hours, asking them if they had any available investor opportunities. So I'd write all these emails at 5:30 in the morning and then schedule them to be sent out between 9:30 and 10:30 that day. So at 9:30 while I'm at work, about 40 to 60 realtors would get emails and then they would be sending me deals that they had available. And the number of realtors would grow each week as I continued to reach out to new realtors and built up my database of professionals. I would also spend time researching on-market deals to find potential deals that would make sense for wholesaling. Now, these are deals that need significant renovations and are in a beat-up condition, and they've been listed for at least 30 days and are still active, which in my market either means something is wrong with the property or it's priced too high. Either way, an opportunity. I would create a list of these properties so that I could contact the realtors later during normal working hours. I would also pull and skip trace new lists of motivated sellers and set up my direct mail campaigns. Lastly, I would continue learning by spending time reviewing training modules from coaching programs that I was a part of. I would go over these training modules over and over again until it all became second nature to me. Alright, category 2 is during work hours. Now, everyone may not have the same situation I had where I was in a supervisory role, so I had the flexibility and some freedom to manage my work schedule. During the day, I would utilize all my downtime. If I had 15 minutes or 20 minutes until my next meeting or task, I wouldn't be at the bathroom or at the water cooler or talking with people in the office. I would spend that time either calling or sending follow-up texts and emails. Also during the day, I would spend my lunch hour eating while making calls to the rest of the realtors on the deals that I found earlier that morning. Or I would be finishing up my follow-up calls and texts to my seller leads. Category 3 was after work hours. On a normal day, my typical schedule would allow me to leave work around 3:30 to 4 o'clock, and it was about a 30-minute drive back home, so I would get home around 4 to 4:30 p.m. And from 4 p.m. to about 9 p.m., I would immediately just jump on the dialer and start cold calling sellers using the list that I prepared and skip traced that morning. I would call anywhere from 3 to 5 hours every weeknight unless I had to pick up my daughter from school or if she had a sports game or some other school event that I had to attend. The only other time I would miss my 3 to 5 hours of cold calling would be if I was attending a real estate networking event, which I made it my goal to attend at least 1 to 2 events per month. After 9 p.m., I would spend the rest of the night to eat dinner, exercise, shower, read, and unwind. I would then be asleep by 11 p.m. at the latest and then wake up and redo the whole thing all over again at 5 a.m. The fourth category, the weekends. On the weekends, I would spend my Saturdays and Sundays either cold calling or attending seller appointments to go see properties in person or driving for dollars. I also DJ'd part-time on Friday nights, Saturday nights, and then again on Sundays for brunch. Now, another thing to mention here is that I use my paid time off strategically for appointments and for selling deals. So if I had a motivated seller and I called them on a Tuesday and it couldn't wait until Saturday for me to go see the property, Or if I had a deal that I was selling where the seller was still living in the house and I couldn't just put a lockbox on the property, I would use my sick time or my vacation days to take time off of work during the week. Now, everyone's situation is different. Some people work from home with flexible hours, some people have demanding jobs with little free time, and some people are somewhere in between. The key here is to identify and utilize your available time effectively. Even dedicating just 5 to 8 hours a week can make a significant difference. So you should use my schedule as a framework and not a strict template. Adjust it to fit your life and your needs. Although this might seem like a lot to manage, remember that this is just hustle season. It doesn't last forever, but while you're in this hustling space, working your 9 to 5 and building your wholesaling business, this is what you have to do. And the sacrifices you're making now are just investments into your future. Today, because of the groundwork I laid, I have a team that helps in handling a lot of my daily operations, and I have rental properties that provide steady cash flow. The freedom I enjoy now is a direct result of the dedication and discipline I practiced while I was working a full-time job. So if you're ready to take control of your time and build a successful wholesaling business, subscribe to the Wholesaling Freedom channel and let's go on this wholesaling journey together. See you on the next video.